In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up an affordable sideline replay system. Hey, what's going on YouTube? Mr. Football here today. And today I wanted to talk about making a sideline replay system, essentially a TV replay system for your sideline in football for under $1,000. So we did this year. It was kind of in the 2020 season, we did this. A lot of teams, this isn't anything new that's really revolutionary, but we did it at a very small school level. So, we didn't have, just an expendable budget to use on a lot of this stuff. We had some of the things that I have in this presentation are very simple. It's things that we already had, a few things we had to go out and buy, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. And once I wanted to make this video, I started adding up. I was like, well, what's the real price point on this? Like, somebody could get into this. And I found out that you could really get into this from what we did for way under $1,000. So we're not going to use all that, but we do have a little bit of a budget to follow, and that's what we have. That was just what I set for myself. And I think just in general terms, that's a pretty safe bet. So essentially what we wanted to do was to have some sort of area on the sideline for our players in between series to come off the field and review film with their coach. And so being that I changed from being in the press box to the sideline this year as the defensive coordinator, I wanted that control. So when we were on offense, I could take the defensive guys that I have and show them this and show them film of the previous drive. And it worked great. Loved it. Would never go back any other way. And I think I was hesitant to do it first. I think I made fun of coaches for doing it because we had the sideline replay, but I thought it was silly. A lot of bigger schools have it that we play with, teams that have a lot more money than us. We did this. And I liked what we did. So we're going to continue to do this. But basically, this thing here from Sky Coach is extremely expensive. And I don't know of anybody that really uses this. I'm sure somebody uses this, but, we don't have that kind of budget. Like, sure, that thing would be nice, but, we don't have the money to spend on those kind of things. Like that kind of stuff gets put into new uniforms, helmets, stuff that we got to have to survive in the program. So the first thing that I'm not including with the price point, you technically could, but I chose not to make this a part of the replace sideline setup. Otherwise, we already have this in place. We were just using iPads for the last 2 years, really the previous year in 2019 when we got Huddle Sideline for the first time. These two setups have been around for a long time. I've had 2 years of sideline basic package just with filming with iPads. It's worked really well for us. But, the two major ones, and there's some other ones, but the two that stand out that I feel like most people use and that would know of is Huddle Sideline and Sky Coach. Otherwise, if you use something else like this fits in as well. Personally, I like Huddle better. I like the Huddle Sideline stuff better than I do the Sky Coach, just from simplicity standards. And that's just, like I said, if you have already one of these systems, you're pretty much already paying for that right now. And if you don't have a TV set up, then this is the new budget that goes into it. So here we go. The first thing is you at least have to just get one of these things going just for a sideline setup. Is you have to have an iPad. You have to have an iOS device. You don't have to have an iPad. Obviously, you could use just like, your standard iPhone. It's an iOS device that you could technically use. So a lot of schools have iPads and, they issue iPads out. Some do, some don't. We get them, but, it's one of those things like you have to have a pretty new, decent one. I'm using just as an example, I'm using a 2019 iPad Air 3, and it works great for what we have. And we actually use that as our filming device too, and it works great. But you got to at least have two of those to get started up. And so really this is the main startup cost. You got to have that Apple device to be able to get the so let's say we're using Huddle Sideline. We got to have some kind of signal that we got to get from the Wi-Fi that Huddle Sideline gives off. Normally that would go to an iPad, an iPhone on the sideline. Well, we're just projecting this on a TV. So obviously, iPad on the sideline serves as the device that receives all the replay footage. And so that's what we review on the sideline. And they often say that the newer stuff is, the newer iPhones, the newer iPads are the ones to use. The cheapest iPad that you can get into just with it's just, I think it's their Gen 7 or Gen 8 iPad. It's whatever is on the Apple website. That's the most current thing. And I think Huddle even goes back. I'm not speaking for Sideline or not. I'm not speaking for Sky Coach because I'm sure they use kind of a similar, setup. You're not going to use you're not going to use a 10-year-old iPad. The stuff gets outdated. So, like I said, not a big cost, but could be a potential hurdle to have in order to get this. But if you already have something like this, you can already eliminate this cost and put that money somewhere else. So like I said, this may be a cost thing. It's why I put it first. Could be one of the things that, helps out. So a TV, and a lot of these prices, when I price checked a lot of the stuff, I went through Walmart, Amazon, and other popular retailers. This I'm just citing, obviously these could change by the time this video comes out, but, I'm filming this and, not during a time where we're around Black Friday or anything where there's any kind of real specials, which you never know. This is the TV that we got. We got the Hisense 32-inch LED Roku Smart TV. And just to be honest, I've not bought a TV in over 10 years and was generally surprised with how these smart TVs are actually pretty affordable nowadays. So really the only thing that we're using this TV for is our Sideline Setup. So we bought this year. Wasn't a lot going into it. And you don't have to, you could get obviously a bigger TV. We felt that this setup was really good. It was, it wasn't too big. It wasn't too small. Obviously the TV's got to fit within your budget. This fit us. And so that's why we talked about it. A TV stand, you got to have something to put this thing on. We first started out with, and some of you will probably remember this because you've either been teaching or coaching long enough to remember these. You remember those metal carts that they would put projectors on, all right? Or maybe they put, and it had, so it was basically like the projector sat right here, and you could write. It had two little wings on the side, and you could write on there. But basically, a projector fit on this thing. And one of our other coaches had that in his classroom. He still used the projector, but he really didn't use the cart anymore. So we used the cart for the first couple of games until about halfway through football season. Actually, our local Walmart donated this to us, and it was actually very generous. So technically for us, this was free, but our Walmart actually donated this to us. And this is a TV stand. I'll show you what it looks like all put together. $80, and it's basically just a stand on wheels. And when we go to, when we have a home game, I essentially just roll it out there, rolls across the track, put it on the sideline, and it's good. And it stays there. So here's the TV, it all set up. So even on the back, it was the hardest part of this was just the install of the entire system, because the TV stand does not come assembled. Obviously that's one factor of time that you got to consider, but it fits on there very well. The only issue that we've had with the TV stand itself is this metal tray that sits down here. It kind of has a tendency to fall off. I didn't use this thing up top. I didn't find any use for it for us. The TV sits on there really well. And some other things it's not that great. It's kind of cheap, but it works for us, and I don't see us really abusing it too much. And it's been great. We've used it in the off season with, just film study, introducing offense, defense, and all that. It's been good. So that's the TV. The next thing, and these are some generally small things, but it's stuff that you need to consider before you get out there and start setting this up. You need at least a 6-foot HDMI cord. 6 foot's just kind of general. You want to have space to be able. You don't want it to be so close to the TV that you can't, let other people view it. You need to be able to, how I would do it was I would let the kids view the screen. I'm looking at the iPad, so at least and that HDMI cord is plugged into the TV, runs to the iPad by means of, and I pulled this Amazon cord HDMI, or I pulled this HDMI cord off Amazon. So obviously you could find better deals or have pre-existing HDMI cords. This is another cost factor of using Apple products. You got to have a Lightning to HDMI adapter. If you have a newer iPad, it may use a different adapter called like a USB 3. Same price. There's no real price difference, but pretty much these Apple dongles or adapters are going to run you about $30 or $40. I pulled this one, I believe, off the Apple website. But I think you can also find it on Amazon a lot cheaper. That's how I got mine. But this connects the iPad to the Roku TV, and that's what allows you to display the iPad screen to the TV. And so it's a very useful tool. It also has this little port down here. So your HDMI cord goes in there where it says HDMI, obviously. And then it also has a spot on there for you to also charge the iPad at the same time. So we've never had problems with battery life. We always charge our stuff before we go to the game, and like it's always working. So we never wanted it to run dead during the game at any point. So we just leave it charging, and we just hook it up to a power source. We included this, and we ended up getting this about halfway through. We had an old existing tent, threw it out after it gave us some trouble. But you need some way to keep this thing out of the elements. And I found a Canopy Tent at Walmart for $30. This is for your weather games. And we always bring this no matter what. Sometimes it doesn't always get set up, but it's there in the case of any type of weather. So it's got to be something you can get up really quick, at least get the TV covered with. It's something that's got to work for you. Fortunately, we didn't have any rain games this year, but it always seems to, just from doing this for a couple of years now, it feels like you have certain years where you've got to use the rain stuff every game, or you have none at all. So it's never just one or two out of the. Yeah, it's you never know. Extension cords and power strips. You got to have this, and something that I've not really talked about is you have to have a power source on your sideline to be able to do this. So we figured that we needed between 250 to 300 feet of extension cord. And once you start adding all this together and you're getting some surge protectors, this is what we got. We got a couple surge protectors. We got a bunch of cord. We did run into one game this year where we went to an away game, didn't know where the power source was. And once we got there, we realized we didn't have enough cord. And so from that day on, and it was kind of miserable not using the sideline setup. We had everything set up there, just couldn't reach the power source. And I think if we would have had a little bit more cord, we would have been fine. But that's something you also have to worry about when you go to somebody else's stadium, where their power source is, if there's a power source on the sideline. Unfortunately, like when people come to us, like we don't have a cord. Like they would really have to run a very long cord to their sideline, and teams have done it. Don't get me wrong, they've done it. But that's something you have to consider. So like one of the things that I do, and it's kind of like a low key stressor of mine, but like I need to know like where the nearest power source is. But most schools have been good, at least in our area, of getting that to you, and it not being a big deal. We made a big deal of it one time, but we were old and grouchy and didn't care. But if we're going to have this set up, we're going to allow the other team to have this set up. I mean, it's kind of fair. So anyway, but yeah, if even having too much cord is probably a good thing too, because you never know how far you're going to have to run those cords. So, but when you really bring the total cost, and the only thing I didn't really consider was tax, shipping and all that kind of stuff that you could get into. But roughly, just with the base cost of a lot of this, you could probably, get by with, just with the things that we talked about just in this. I came up with $663. Obviously, the tax would probably run you closer to 700, a little more. But those are just that's just like the base cost that I feel like that you have to get into this. Here it is, fully set up from our very last game and our playoff game. I felt like by the playoff game, and we had set this thing up so many times throughout the season, it was the best it worked. I started driving. I drove my own vehicle to the playoff game, and me and my wife set it up. So that was kind of like a fun bonding experience between me and my wife. It's just like, the worst part of this is, at least for me, is setting it up. And getting it done, because that's just like, it's like one of those things that you like. I do this as the defensive coordinator, like, it's something I got to have. But we're a very small football staff, so I've got to do stuff like this, and I really enjoy it. Like, I'm not hating on what I do in my job, but this is it's just a fun aspect of it. And we would always kind of set it up. Never really had it near the 50. Is always kind of near the 35, 30-yard line, because we were actually stretching out this power cord out to, I think it was their scoreboard or their 25-second clock. But yeah, you can see everything kind of integrated there. We've got our power source. Something you have to consider too with, your iPads, you also need a power source for it. I really feel like the power source is the one thing that gets often it's either it makes or breaks it. Like, you have really nice stuff, and I'm going at this trying to get you guys into this as cheap as possible. But I did put down some other considerations that you need to also consider for this, because of the nature of what we're talking about here. You need a way to store the TV. For the first couple of games, we were storing it on the bus. Not a safe thing. It could have gotten thrown around and broken, but eventually we ended up finding kind of a makeshift storage, something that we could put the TV down inside and be protected. And we put some foam in there, and it worked out really well. Cord and cable storage, you need a place to keep that. We chose plastic totes. I didn't really include that in the cost, but that stuff's pretty cheap in itself, so you may find it laying around. Another one that I'm trying to kind of get into, I've not done this yet, Velcro for keeping up with the remote for the TV. What I want to do next year is Velcro the remote somewhere on the back of the TV, and so it never gets lost, because oftentimes I would put it in my pocket and then go home at night, and then get done with the game, and then realize, I got the TV remote. iPad cases, something for weather consideration and just keeping your iPad safe just from accidental falls. Obviously, I think weatherproof, shockproof, that kind of stuff's the way to go. I had a LifeProof case on the iPad that I was using. It's completely waterproof. Those LifeProof cases are really good for the iPad. So that was something that we had on it. Works well. Taking it on away games, that's another consideration I want to talk about, especially with power. And I've kind of mentioned that throughout. You've always got to make sure that you've got a power source, and it goes right into the last thing I'm wanting to talk about. But the power source thing is often it's like I say, it's going to make or break this thing. If you don't have power on your sideline and you don't have any other way to get juice to the TV, like, you're not going to have it. And then you've got to have plan B. I was actually really surprised at some of the places that we went this year that actually had power on their sideline. And I can only think of 2 places on our schedule for next year that I'm concerned about for that kind of stuff, and making sure we got the TV. And a lot of times they're just areas that are really old, and they've not had a stadium update so in a long time. But most places you can find that. The thing that I'm looking into and what some teams do is they bring a generator. Obviously, the generator is noisy, but if you can find a way to store that generator and get it there, that's one thing. A power inverter, we tried one of these, but we didn't have enough. It didn't have enough voltage to. It's more for a car battery. and it didn't work for the TV. We tried this one time, didn't have enough juice to power the TV. And I've seen where some places you have to have at least 800 volts to be able to turn on a TV. And that's not just saying with all the other stuff that we had. And the power inverter that we tried could turn the TV on, but it shut it off like right after. So there wasn't enough power to juice it. And if there's any other considerations, like if you guys know of anything else for power sources that I'm not thinking of, like I would love to find something that would have just like you could plug the TV up and like you could charge a device, and which that's kind of what a power inverter is, but it's got the TV is the main consideration. So what do you do if you don't have the TV? Well, you got to have still an ability to, review that stuff with the iPads. And so the iPad thing works for us. The one game that we had to do it wasn't a big deal. And what I did to kind of adapt to that, couldn't have all 11 defense players around me. So I just broke them up by groups. So I'd have the D-line come to me first. I'd have, the linebackers, then our safeties, corners, just however you can do it. That's just kind of the other considerations I have. So like I said, that's the sideline setup. I'm looking forward to year 2 of this. It's been great for us. I'm just extremely excited this is the weird thing. Like I enjoy talking about this kind of stuff. I don't know if and this has obviously become a long video, so I truly apologize for if you guys, but I want to thank you at the same time for watching this video, because it was kind of a video. I've worked on this pretty hard. Like I started working on this back when we had a bunch of snow. I think most people were snowed in. Started working on this video, and I was like, man, I really want to talk about our sideline setup. It went so well for us, and I was so excited. And I'm just like, I just had so much fun using it, and like I'll never go back. I've reached the pinnacle of like, this is what I want, and this is just fun to me. And the thing that like I'm truly excited about next year, and it's weird that I'm excited for football, but I'm also excited to upgrade our sideline system as well and integrate our end zone cut with this as well by getting Huddle, one of the better Huddle sideline setups, paying a little bit more and getting that set up. So this is a great teaching tool. If you can afford it, if you can do this kind of stuff, like, trust me, this isn't a make or break thing. Like, you don't have to have this. You can still do like what people have been doing in coaching for, the last 100 years and just tell players. But the thing that I've noticed is players want to see those mistakes. And I've seen players, make mistakes on the field, come over to the sideline, figure out what they did wrong, and even ask me and say, Coach, what can I do better here? And I'll say, well, you've got to read your key. You've got to, stay in coverage. We got, you locked on the wrong man. Like, that those are all adjustments. And so when players see it themselves, it makes such a greater impact. And the thing that really, like, the thing that you don't want to happen, it's not for watching your highlights, like right after. Like, there's got to be the right application for this, especially like even with your players. And I always encourage, always having a coach there. Like our receivers coach does it for the offensive side. If there's anything specific our head coach needs to view, he usually views it with the offensive line. And then I do it for the whole defensive side. So it's one of those things that's extremely valuable. And the only thing that you have to be mindful of is time. Because if you're say we're on defense, we've just come off the field after getting making the offense punt, we come off and, we start looking at, say it's a long drive. Like we're not going to want to go through all those plays. Like I got to have in my mind, I kind of like in between, a lot of my players on defense also play special teams. So, in that time, I've got to find plays that I want to talk about. Like, we're going to hit on good things. We're going to hit on the bad things. We're going to hit on the things that we need to work on. And usually that takes about, 3 to 4 plays. And if the offense is punting on 4th down, some of my guys are running out there on the punt team. So, and then I got to get back and ready to call the defense. So it's one of those things that you've got to be able to work quick on the sideline. And this turned, I feel like this part of the video turned into more of like, do's and don'ts with this kind of stuff. But I don't know. Like I said, I just enjoy talking about it. Like it's fun to talk about just in my terms. So anyway, I guess that's all I have. This was fun talking about this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Apologize for the length of the video, but like I said, it was just something I wanted to get out and talk about. I was excited to make this video. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the next installment, next video. We're uploading videos every Tuesday and Thursday for at least the foreseeable future, around 6 p.m. at night, Central Time, as far as when videos are being released. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Mr. Football, and we'll see you next time.
Perfect.